So let's talk about it. Ilia Topuria knocked out Max Holloway. I wish we had a clip to play on here, but Ilia Topuria knocks out Max Holloway, defends his featherweight championship. First time Max Holloway's ever been knocked out. So a lot of people, this would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the question now becomes, what's next for Ilia Topuria? Most people are saying we want to see another title defense from a champion. But when you knock out a guy like Max Holloway, who's never been knocked out, who's looked at as the Iron Man of the UFC, man, you got to ask yourself, man, does that give him the opportunity to even jump the next title defense? And should he be fighting a guy like Islam Makhachev? Because guess what? That would feed families. Islam Makhachev versus the Ilia Topuria fight feeds a lot of families. Hell, people even clamoring for a Conor McGregor versus the Ilia Topuria fight because this guy is a superstar. The UFC finally have the superstar they were waiting for. Obviously, Alex Behead is already a superstar, but the guy is 37 years old.
Yeah.
He's 37 years old, and you got to ask how long is his fighting career going to be. You got Khamzat Chimaev, but he's not active enough. You got Tom Aspinall, but he's not getting the opportunity to fight a guy like John Jones to even project him into superstar stratosphere, if you will. But you got a guy like Ilia Topuria, who is the featherweight champion, who's knocked out two of the guys we consider featherweight goats in the span of a year. You have to ask yourself now, where does that put in Ilia Topuria in his future? Daniel, what say you?
I think that you're right. And it really is a thing of, especially for anybody who's, not necessarily the biggest UFC fan. I wish I could find a good comparison for this, but it really is. Think about Conor McGregor was the most exciting guy in the UFC. He wasn't necessarily the most dominant, but he was the most exciting guy. And the way he was finishing guys, he was on a historic run. Ilia Topuria right now is arguably, and to put it quite frankly, it was like, his last two fights, in theory, are like an NFL team beating the two best, NFL teams in the previous two Super Bowls. That's what he did. He fought the two guys, like you said, that were in consideration for the best of all time at the division, and he beat them in their prime. That's the thing, right? He didn't beat a way too old Alexander Volkanovski. Maybe he wasn't at his full-on best, but he was still elite. And same thing with Max Holloway. This was coming off Max Holloway's biggest victory, arguably, and biggest performance of his entire career. And he did it in dominating fashion. So Ilia Topuria, to be honest, if you guys don't know his name, you guys should know his name, because I truly think, Malik, he is going to be one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. And I think it comes from multiple things. First off, it comes from the confidence. It comes from his pure skill. On a skill-to-skill basis, he might be the most talented guy on the roster. And when you look at it, it's not just about skill. And that's something that I do want to touch on, is fighting is so much a mental game, and it is so much a toughness game. This guy might be one of the toughest fighters in the UFC. When you go look at his past two fights, he has gotten his face jabbed up. Maybe not terribly, but he is getting jabbed time and time again. His face was getting beat, and he never wavered. Not once was his mentality shifted. Not once did he start backing up. His game plan stayed the same. You go look at 5 fights ago, he fought Jai Herbert, and Ilia Topuria got basically dropped, got head kicked, got dropped, and as soon as he got back up, it was like nothing ever happened. Pressing right forward. And I think that's what I want to really recognize about Ilia. He's got the mindset of a champion. He's got the toughness of a champion. And I really have no doubts that, hey, this dude is only 27 years old. I don't think that he goes a Conor path right now and just goes fights for all the money. I think that this dude is of the timing of the mindset that, hey, the next 3 to 4 years, call it, that could get him 8 to 10 fights. He could be one of the greatest fighters of all time within the next 3 years. And I think that he's in this flow state to where, Malik, you're right. If he goes up and fights up a weight class, beats Islam Makhachev, Ilia Topuria, I'm with you. And I appreciate you putting me on him a while ago, that this dude, we could be talking about him as up there with John Jones in 5 years. And it's crazy to say, maybe but I don't think it's too early to say that because of his 2 wins that he just put forth. So this dude is arguably the most impressive fighter on the UFC roster. And I'm just taking the time to appreciate him, because that performance he put out, there's something special about when a player, when a team, when a coach says that they're going to do something and does the same exact thing. Ask yourself that question. How often do we see that? And I'm going to tell you, it's very rare that we see somebody, hey, I'm going to go knock this guy out. Here's how I'm going to do it. And he did that in 2 straight fights. So I applaud his confidence. I applaud his work ethic. I applaud his toughness. This dude is absurd. He's one of the cleanest strikers. And it's making history when somebody does something that's never been done before. And he did that against Max Holloway. In 31 career fights for Max Holloway, he has never been knocked out. He got knocked out this past weekend. So that says a lot about who Ilia Topuria is and what he's got on his horizon.
Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting. I think the one thing that's really, really cool for Ilia Topuria is he is English speaking, right?
Yes.
You know, so I can feel comfortable saying that he is marketable. He is the face of the UFC. His whole aura is just super cool, like a mafia boss type thing with the rose that he hands out and all that stuff like that. So it's gonna be pretty cool to see.